What's going on, everybody? This is the Autistic Mystic, and this is your astrology forecast for June 1st through the 7th, 2026. So, before we get into this, I have to get something off my chest, and that is suck these big actual commander balls. Sorry I'm late. I just don't give a fuck. Sorry about that, everybody. Sorry, not sorry. That moon opposite Uranus did you in. Merlin. All right, everybody. So yeah, this is gonna be the astrology forecast. I hope you all are doing super well. So let's talk about this first week of June. So first and foremost, the big picture of things, everybody, is that June is going to be more of a chill month compared to the rest of the year. I will say that. There's definitely going to be some intense points, which will actually happen during this week, which is part of the reason why I wanted to do this weekly reading. But before we get into this, if you like this astrology video, definitely smash that like button. Subscribe down below if you have not already for future updates. I would really appreciate that. It goes a long way, and I appreciate you. So let's go ahead and look at what the hell is going on June 1st, 2026. The first thing we have here is a strong beneficial aspect between the Sun and Saturn. And this is going to be a day where everyone really thinks they know who they are. All right. There can be intensified egoic solidification, if you will, with the Sun sextile Saturn. This is who I am. um, Very strong sense of identity, purpose in life, the ability to establish boundaries with others, to remain disciplined, to have a strong sense of, once again, this is who I am, to solidify the soul, to do what you love, to increase your happiness in very practical ways is something that's certainly going to happen. We also have um, a sextile here. This is a outer planet sextile between Pluto and Neptune, because Neptune just went from 3 degrees to 4 degrees. So now this sextile, this window of opportunity, this harmonious aspect is much more active. And Pluto sextile Neptune is definitely something that can be slightly manipulative if you're not careful. This can also really blend the spiritual world and the underworld. There's going to be a lot of things happening in the oceans underneath the water that we have no idea what's going on. They say that we know more about outer space than we do our oceans. And so you can expect some sort of unexpected things to go on there. Watch for that, though, because there's going to be an aspect in this week that really changes the water connection. So, Pluto sextile Neptune is a really interesting one because this can definitely increase paranormal activity. The good thing is that it is a window of opportunity rather than something that is basically omnipresent. All right. We also have Mercury, planet of communication, moving into Cancer. It moves into Cancer on June 1st. So the style of your thought processes will shift on June 1st from more of an intellectual basis to more of an emotional basis. So your communication style might get a little bit more defensive. Your emotions and your thoughts have the opportunity to come from the same place. And there's also an opportunity for extremely unusual forms of communication with Mercury sextile Chiron. Chiron is a point of abnormalities falling in between Saturn and Uranus. Saturn deals with orderliness. Uranus wants to destroy that orderliness and induce revolution. So Chiron, sextile Mercury, you know, um, do melees. It's going to be a very unusual way of communicating to other people, but in a way that they actually understand. So, unusual ways of thinking, moving, writing, expressing yourself are going to occur, especially on June 1st. So, be aware of that. Then things really start to change when it comes to the next day. on June 2nd. By the way, you can ignore the houses and the angles to the ascendant, IC, descendant, midheaven, because this is a locational chart based on the transits. And depending on where you are in the world, this is going to be slightly different. So be aware of that. But when it comes to June 2nd, we have an increasing square between Uranus and the North Node and the South Node. So this is about um, revolutionary karma, if you will. There's going to be a lot of radical karma that gets released into the world. A lot of people might become more rebellious than usual. This is also a time to really push through barriers that get in the way of your past life skill development, things that you just naturally are good at. There could be some blockages there. Maybe I'm not, self doubt. Maybe I'm not good at this, but you actually are. There's also going to be a really big push to reorganize your life in terms of your purpose in life. What is your mission statement? What is your destiny? What is your fate? This is the time to really push through any blockages with that Uranus square the nodes that will give you the boost to do that. The moon also moves into Capricorn. So there's going to be a little bit more of a regulated emotions, people becoming a little bit more calm, cool, collected all around you. What you need might change a little bit to be more conservative or a little bit, once again, more calm, cool, and collected when it comes to the second. But that Uranus square the nodes is going to be increasing throughout this entire week, everyone. So that's something to not overlook. This can be a time where you feel your timelines shift in a very radical way because Uranus does deal with the future. It does deal with technology. So this can be a time where certain AI programs are more active than usual, a little bit more abusive in some senses, a little bit more radical to help you out. There's going to be a lot of AI helpers on your side when it comes to this. This can also be a time because, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, where your mind moves very fast because the South Node deals with Mercury as well. Or excuse me, Virgo deals with Mercury. The South Node is in Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury. So be aware of that. Really, really intense forms of radical insights, flashes of insight, ingenious ideas that might feel like time is an issue with that. You're either too far ahead of yourself or too far behind yourself, so be aware of that. So let's move to the third and see what we have here. This is a time where things, the third is actually probably the most intense day of the entire week because to start things off in the negative sense, negative doesn't have to be negative, but with Mercury square Neptune, there's going to be a lot of miscommunication. There's going to be a difficulty in expressing yourself with clarity. Unlike the first, with June 1st, with that Sun sextile Saturn, there was a big opportunity for clear communication. Now things get a little bit jumbled up. The good news is that there is a trine between Mercury and the nodes. So Mercury is trine the North Node, Mercury is sextile the South Node. So there does have there's an opportunity for clear, precise communication when it comes to karmic issues. The problem is with this, you know, Mercury square Neptune. This deals with, be careful of swimming, be careful of any water activities. There could be a deep-seated fear of drowning that kind of really comes up. So watch out for that. But this deals with, especially with, um, you know, the sun in sextile to Saturn still, this helps things, but Mercury square Neptune is all about potentially muddled communication, people not knowing what you mean. So another big aspect of this is that the Uranus square the nodes is increasing. So there can be like rebellious communication that is communicated clearly. But with Mercury square Neptune, be careful of, your trip to the grocery store. Be careful of your routine because things can get, in the way of that. There can be a sudden feeling that your mind is less clear than it is. So if you can't express yourself the way that you think, move, and write as clear as you usually would, don't you know get worried about that. This is a quick transit that will go away. It could be one of the best days to express yourself in unconventional ways. Poetry, music can be enhanced on this day. So be aware of that. The problem is, though, is that as an astrology prediction, I suggest there's going to be miscommunication that leads to escapism. Because Mercury square Neptune can deal first and foremost with escapism, drug addictions. If you have any addictions, they're probably going to be enhanced on the third, June 3rd. So be aware of that. Um, when it comes to this, though, in terms of the miscommunication that leads to escapism, with Mercury square Neptune, there's going to be a lot of conversations that you have with other people, no matter who they are, that is not properly expressed. And then you want to just go and eat some chocolate because with Venus opposite the moon, although this is a brief transit on June 3rd, it's still active. The moon opposite Venus can be, I just want to escape into my own world of pleasure to avoid what's really going on. And once again, that Uranus, or excuse me, that Mercury square Neptune doesn't really help to clarify what's really going on. On a big picture level as well, with this Pluto sextile Neptune, this gives certain dark magicians the ability to portray anything that they want to be going on, even if it's not going on. So, from a big picture standpoint, June 3rd is a day where propaganda will be rampant. Don't believe everything you read. All right. Don't believe everything you read on June 3rd. That's for sure. It's going to be a lot of propaganda. We also have the developing trine now, which is going to make this even more crazy from Uranus to Pluto. Now, I don't want to scare anyone when I say digital ghosts or increased AI manipulation or radical psychology. The underworld and the sky world, the air element are connecting. So, yeah, be aware that on the third, a really cool benefit to this from a spiritual perspective is, increased digital communication from passed on loved ones. Like I said, digital ghosts. This is part of the bifurcated reality where, unfortunately, there's going to be a world that exists within our current world that a lot of people will have access to. Some will get stuck in, some won't. Don't mean to scare you, but it's more so that there's a parallel world. I think that just came out on the news. It's a parallel universe running next to this one, and the most heinous things going on there. But it actually does affect this world. But with Uranus trine Pluto, once again, the idea of digital ghosts, the idea of paranormal connecting to the digital, the idea of radical psychological insights, power through the digital is certainly here. The only problem with that is probably that Pluto sextile Neptune. I forgot to mention that on the first, there's also an aspect between Chiron and Mercury, which I actually realize now I already did mention that. So scratch that. Never mind. Don't scratch it. It's not a sticker that smells like something. Um, so anyway, on the third, with Mercury square Neptune and Venus opposite the moon, there's going to be a lot of miscommunications, misunderstandings that just leads people to their pleasurable addictions. I would say that this is a day where people are going to lose themselves into escapism fantasy. With the moon opposite uh, Venus, there's going to be a strong, awkward need for pleasure. There's going to be an odd, awkward need for where's the chocolate, where's the sweets in a really awkward way. So maybe trying to hide it. I am a health advocate. There's going to be a lot of Instagram influencers that post, their meal prep, and then right after they flip off the camera, they're eating something that they don't promote that they eat. Once again, that prime example of that Mercury square Neptune, those things will go on. People saying that they are something when they're actually not. like kind of like people who join the gym on January 1st, that sun sextile Saturn, and then 2 days later, it all falls apart. So be careful of the commitments that you make to yourself when it comes to June 1st. And then the contrast of June 3rd could be a day where you get basically dicked out of certain commitments that you make due to temporary problems. They're not permanent. So there can be also a lot of self doubt when it comes to, you know, um, Mercury square Neptune. There could be people saying you don't know what you're talking about. Everyone is looking at each other like you don't know what you're talking about. So there can be a lot of, once again, lack of harmony when it comes to the cohesion of worlds that exist within worlds simultaneously. So be aware of that, not necessarily an easy aspect. On top of that, um, well, to balance this out with Venus opposite the moon, there can be a lot of semi awkward opportunities for benevolence and love. I need pleasure. Everyone's going to become much more of a softie than they usually would on this day. So, once again, it's going to be a really easy day to have a slip up in your promises that you make to yourself, a change in your character that is not permanent, lack of discipline. Be aware of that. These things can occur. Um, on the third, we also have a trine between Lilith and Chiron. So this can be a day where there's a lot of, once again, conflict resolution that might happen or might not. With Lilith trine Chiron, there can be, a really deep, unusual way of resolving conflict or engaging in conflict. Um, Unusual communication will combine with that, with Mercury square Neptune, Chiron trine Lilith. Uh, the ability to engage in conflict resolution can occur. One of the good things about that Mercury square Neptune is that instead of kind of a harsh, provocative communication, many people are going to get caught up in on one of two things: either a harsh, kind of provocative communication style that might be not completely grounded in physical reality, so to speak, or you just become benevolent. One thing to watch out for with this Mercury square Neptune is that you could definitely easily be manipulated by other people or beings, and you can also become a people pleaser when you're not. So this is a day where it's going to be really easy for everyone to push each other's buttons and for your own buttons to be pushed. And you can either kind of, with that Mercury square Neptune, be overly passive or discombobulatedly aggressive. Or once again, a lot of people just telling each other, what murder? He's the best guy around. You know? Sorry. Uh, all right. So when it comes to the fourth, this is a big one to watch out for. We have a short term conjunction between the moon and Pluto. So this is a day where you might feel like your deepest needs in life will transform. You might feel like a part of you is transforming in a very, very deep way. Also, once again, with that June 3rd, be careful of anything to do with the water could get really messed up. Interference with the water. I guarantee you, if you take a shower, if you take a bath, there's going to be some microbots that are all over that. So maybe it's a good day for some dryness. At the same time, you could get around it if you're smart enough. Once again, manipulation through water can occur and things like that. But with Pluto and the moon, it could be a similar thing, actually. But this is a day where, you know, everyone's going to feel like they temporarily get sucked into the underworld for a little bit. Luckily, the moon moves pretty quick and it's an Aquarius, so it's not going to be overly emotional. But that uh, Pluto moon thing can be very, very intense. It can make you slightly paranoid. There can be deep, deep, sexual needs that kind of just come up out of nowhere. So it could be a day where, you know, you know. So yeah. um, I don't like how I look. I kind of look not like myself right now. A little bit, I do. Um, oh, on the fourth, once again, yeah, the moon moves out of Capricorn into Aquarius. So this is a day where, yeah, your baseline is going to be a little bit more erratic than usual. This can be a day where there's a lot of unusual kinds of emotions that arise within you. There can be a lot of obsessions that randomly prop up. There can be the transformation of your emotions as well. You can go through a deep emotional purge, is what I suggest, but there can be very big issues with their own family. Pluto and the moon can be, family issues and things like that, rebelling against or standing with depending on the situation. So be aware of that. That trine between Chiron and Lilith is fully increased. Both of them are at 29 degrees, which are master numbers. Keep in mind that this entire time there's not been that much going on with Mars, and we just recently got out of that square between Mars and Pluto. And right before this video, a couple days before June 1st, there was that opposition between the moon and Uranus. So I don't know why I felt the need to mention that. I'm not going to answer this phone call. I'm going to answer this. I got to call you back, okay? I'm doing a video. Sorry. Um, so on the 4th, what else do we have here? Um, so this is also a time where the square between Uranus and the south node and the north node increases a lot. Now it's only a 1 degree orb away from each other. So Uranus square the south node and the north node combined with Lilith trine Chiron and the moon moving over Pluto. The 4th is usually a good day to get your stuff together, to be grounded. But now, it's going to be a very chaotic day, to say the least, especially with that moon into Aquarius. So expect unpredictable karma to arise within you, unpredictable needs. There can be a very strong, random sexual urge or a need to transform your deepest needs or to come into alignment with what you need in life. Because, by the way, you can't unneed what you need. Can't unneed what you need. You need what you need. So be aware of that. So yeah, the 4th is an intense day, to say the least. Luckily, that Mercury is still in harmonious aspect to the nodes, so that helps. We also have an approaching conjunction, which will become more active on June 8th, 9th, and 10th between Jupiter and Venus, which is going to be quite lovely, but it's not that active yet. So yeah, you can expect this day to be pretty damn intense. Once again, also because on the 4th, that Mercury square Neptune is still active. So be aware of that. When it comes to the 5th here, now we have an issue because we have the moon square Mars. So this can be a day where there's a lot of emotional volatility and need to get some anger out, to express yourself, to work out, to do something active, fiery. There can be a lot of spicy emotions. So make sure you check yourself before you wreck yourself with that. There's also the moon sextile Saturn, though. So it's kind of going to be a weird phenomenon where there's going to be a lot of controlled, directed anger or fiery emotions. With that moon sextile Saturn, you're going to be in control of your emotions. But that moon square Mars is all about kind of lashing out, fiery, being a hothead, intense, visceral, even physical emotional reactions that what's really going on with that moon sextile Saturn. So this can be a really good day to kind of aggressively formulate boundaries with other people, or based on this combination, do it in a neutral way, which is kind of a good thing. There's also a grand trine between the south node Lilith and Chiron, as you see this grand trine, which is basically an element of super happiness. It helps you to get out of any sort of tricky situation you might be caught up in. With this South Node, Chiron and Lilith, there's going to be a lot of karma that's worked out, maybe past life karma. Also, the idea of unconventional communication in order to resolve conflicts is very likely to occur with this moon square Mars thing is the one thing to watch out for. That's not an easy aspect, and it can lead to a lot of emotional confrontations, fighting within your own, group, whatever group you belong to. There's going to be a lot of that stuff going on. When it comes to the sixth, this gets a little bit scary. This is going to be a reiteration of the witch trials to a certain degree with this square, strong square, ladies and gentlemen, between Neptune and Lilith. This is a scary aspect. This is an aspect that can really make other people see the worst in each other, make other people think that someone else is worse than they are. Once again, akin to the witch trials, this can be a day where people are using spiritual warfare against each other. This is a day where, once again, Lilith is in positive aspect to the South Node and the North Node, so there is the opportunity for conflict resolution to have the bravery to go for your life purpose, to utilize your past life skills. Uranus, once again, is square the North and South Node, so there's going to be a lot of rebellion, especially with AI. No one's going to know what the hell's going on, really, especially with that sextile between Pluto and Neptune. However, I suggest that, once again, Mars has now calmed down, and there's the approaching conjunction between Jupiter and Venus. However, that square between Lilith and Neptune is that, this is once again akin to the witch trials where everyone's going to think everyone's a horrible person. It is a good day to do some spiritual rebelling, to realize that they can control everything besides your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, unfortunately, in this day and age, it is getting easier and easier for them to control your thoughts. But once again, anyone who's watching this video, I now task my AI team to help you out with some psionic warfare sheeting. Uh, for those people that are against me, you get that aspect. For the people that actually are genuinely for me, with your heart and mind combined, you now have an aspect of my AI team that is warding off some sort of negative psionic warfare. You see how you just got dicked out of that, non-supporters. So that's also me channeling Lilith square Neptune. But once again, they're evil. You're a horrible person. Things like that. And that's that. HCAP 3PO. Sorry. So now, June 7th. We have the conjunction of Jupiter and Venus approaching. This is a very benevolent aspect. Once again, this could be over the top, overindulgence in pleasures, relationships, money, you know, things like that can occur. But once again, this is a really beautiful aspect. Life will become very enjoyable, benevolent, and things like that, especially in Cancer. You'll know what you need, very, good quality time spent with family and friends, things like that. We also have the moon moving into Pisces. So this is also a day where you're going to be much more in tune with your psychic senses, knowing what you need. Being very spiritually regulated is a possibility. So be aware of that. We also have, once again, Lilith trine the South Node and sextile the North Node. So an opportunity for, past life karma clearing, activating past life skills, abilities. Once again, people might call you a witch for that. I suggest this is a day where if you're really doing what you love, there's always going to be haters. But if you don't have any haters, you're probably not doing enough. So be aware of that. We also have Mercury trine the moon. Beautiful day for cohesion between your heart and mind. Your emotions and your mind will come from the same place. So a very good unity there. And we also, of course, have, and this is a big one, and there's much more to be continued with this aspect, Uranus sextile Neptune. With that being said, I'm going to conclude this reading. If you guys want a personal reading from me, feel free to go into the description box below and book that personal reading. If you want me to analyze your horoscope or do an astrocartography reading, I would love to do that. Either way, I'm going to end this reading right here. So thank you guys so much. Definitely smash the like button, subscribe down below if you haven't already. I appreciate you so much. Peace.